Thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah, so we recently developed a workflow for a custom workflow for SCI on BTP because we saw some limitations what SAP is offering there. So maybe first question: who is knowing SAP Cloud Integration or Integration Suite? Okay, almost one. Have you ever worked with that? Okay, then you don't have seen that it's a really poor developer experience in our opinion. That's why we came up with a totally custom workflow. So you see the agenda first, the motivation why we did that. Then we will show you the solution architecture, and then Jan will do a live demo of the whole end-to-end workflow. Yeah, and in the end, if you have some time, we will have a Q&A. Yeah, so as I said, there are limitations. There are many limitations in our opinion. So we don't have a version control management via Git on SCI. We have some basic version control, so you can go back and forth between versions of artifacts developed in the on the platform. But yeah, it's nothing compared to what Git is offering to us. We don't have static code analysis. We cannot say if our coding is secure. So in our company, we heavily use Groovy as a scripting language on the platform, and until maybe 3 months ago, there was almost no analysis of this code, quality-wise and security-wise, because the platform is just offering nothing. We don't have any CI/CD pipeline set up there. So what they are actually doing is they go to the dev tenant, download their integration package. So an integration package is just an encapsulation of all the development artifacts we have there. They download it manually on their local machine. They go to the prod tenant and upload it manually. So this is how the deployment process is looking like. And yeah, actually we are in 2023, and yeah, nobody should do it like that. Yeah, and it's not easy to establish a simple code review process because you have not something like a pull request or git diff. Yeah, that's why we try to do it better with our solution. Yeah, so a very important piece in the puzzle is a CAP application. So we use this CAP application to connect an integration package to an Azure repository. And this CAP application is there to download the integration package and push it to the Azure the Git repository. And then we have a CI/CD pipeline set up to enable us to have static code analysis and vulnerability analysis. And we're also having scripts set up to do some custom validations, which we defined ourselves inside our company. And yeah, we developed a little NPM package, which is just a wrapper around the Cloud Integration API, which enables us to download the artifacts via REST API and do analysis on them and upload them afterwards. And therefore, we developed a little NPM package. You see the QR code on the top right. Yeah, you can take a look if you want. And yeah, if you see some similar scenarios, check that out because it eases the usage of this API a lot. Yeah, this is how our solution architecture is looking like. So on the left, we call it the SCI Dev Portal. This is a launchpad in the cloud. This will give every SCI developer access to all the tools we need in this workflow. He will have access to the SCI Dev and prod tenant. He will have access to the CAP application with Fiori Elements UI. He will have access to Azure DevOps, which we use for versioning and CI/CD. And he will have access also to SonarQube, which is our tool for static code analysis. Yeah, the workflow is looking like that. So the developer goes into the portal, jumps into the SCI Dev tenant, does his development there. Once he thinks he's ready, he goes to the CAP application. He synchronizes his artifacts into a Git repository. By that, we are automatically opening a pull request. Inside this pull request, we do a validation build. So we just check the coding with the static code analysis tool, SonarQube, and with our custom validations. If everything is fine and also the second person has done a review, this will be merged. And this will trigger our release pipeline, and we synchronize it back automatically to the dev tenant and manually. Also, we have a manual for principle following process to deploy it via Azure to production tenant. Yeah. So said, enough slides. We are on unconference, so we want to have source code and a live demo. So on the left side, you have the source code part, and now Jan will give you a live demo.
Yeah, so also welcome from my side. There's a small couple of steps that we are going to take a look at. We'll start with a simple Hello World iFlow on the SAP Cloud Integration. We will then sync it to Azure DevOps with our sync app. Then we will have a look at what it actually looks like on Azure DevOps to see what the structure of the project looks like. We will check the branch, we will check a pull request and see what actually happens on Azure side. Then we will perform a small change on the SAP Cloud Integration just to have a small diff to see if we can push multiple updates. We will sync that again. Then we will also fix some SonarQube findings that we, of course, deliberately put in this small example. And afterwards, we will merge the pull request and see what actually the CI/CD pipeline then does to deploy the artifacts back. And in the end, yeah, there's also some validation steps. I took that away with the deployment. So let's start. We are now in the role of a SAP Cloud Integration developer. In this case, we open our dev launchpad, basically. We will have this tenant here. And in the Cloud Integration, we have some really simple iFlow. As you can see, it does not do very much. It starts and has a Hello World script in it. And when we take a look at the script, it's not too complicated. It's importing some package and writing basically Hello World to the output. And then you can basically call this as an HTTP endpoint. And you can see, we get Hello World. Nothing too spectacular at the moment, but for demo purposes, it should be sufficient. So when I'm finished with developing, I go back to my developer portal, and then I open the sync app to then create a synchronization. For that, we have our Fiori Elements UI, as Marcel already mentioned, and we create an entity here. We first select our destination of our SAP Cloud Integration, because it could be that we have multiple instances or multiple tenants running. In our case, we only have one, and then we can simply select that, and we can search our Azure DevOps for an organization and a project, which then ultimately ends up in a repository where we can then say create. And this basically creates a small database record which links the SAP Cloud Integration package with the Azure DevOps project repository. Now, with one simple push of a button, we have to wait a couple of seconds because it needs to download all the artifacts, and then we already see the success message that a branch was created and a pull request was opened for the new branch. So if we take a look on the Azure side now, we can see in branches that there's some new branch here, which is called new update for the moment. And we can see it is one commit ahead of the main branch. And also here on the right-hand side, it's a little small, but you can see the pull request here. And if we check that out, we can see that we have an overview of all the files that have been pushed inside the Azure repository. We can see only new lines here, of course, at the moment. And we can also check that our validation pipeline is running. And as you already see, there's some error reported. This is to be expected in this case. And if we scroll down a little, we can see what actually causes the error. So there's our Groovy script that I showed earlier. And it tells me, there's a minor bug. There's a variable named body in the class that is not used. So we should get rid of that. But before we do that, let me change a little thing in the iFlow itself, so we can see that it's actually working. So we'll now change that to recap 23. I'm deliberately not removing the error as of now to show you another way of fixing those then. So we'll deploy the iFlow again. And if everything runs smoothly, we should now have hello recap. Okay. So we made a change, we push it again. And back in Azure, check our pull request, and our pipeline is running again. So we still have the bug to fix, and that we can do also on Azure side. If we check out check the new update branch, there is the folder structure of an iFlow, and in here we have our script, and we could also, for example, go into the edit mode here and then just comment out this simple line that's causing the error. So we commit that, and yeah, now we should see that our pull request, if it's running through, takes a little while, should then be having no errors, and we would be able to merge this then back to our main branch. While this is still running, maybe Marcel, you can tell a little bit about our documentation that we did for that.
Yeah, just open it. Yeah, as you can see, as we heard from Daniel this morning, he recommended Wheatgrass. We also adapted that. I think it was almost similar because we had that since 2 or 3 months, and I guess also the CAP team did that 2 or 3 months back. Everybody who's not yet checked that out, I really recommend it. I think at the moment there's no better way to write good-looking documentation in a very easy, in a very easy manner. You can just write Markdown. The overall design, the UX of the website, which is generated from these Markdown files, is really, really awesome. You have these features like this global search here. For search for pipeline, for example, leads me directly to a site on pipeline. You have this nice tree structure on the side, where you have a dark mode, which is in 2023 needed in my opinion to be cool and fancy. So I can really recommend that, not only for product documentation, but also for internal developer documentation, because learning Markdown is just a matter of maybe an hour, and you really need nothing more than having this Markdown and maybe a little pipeline to set up a deployment to whatever hosting service you want.
All right, then let's have a look if our pipeline ran successfully. Yeah, we can see there's no more errors here to see. And now we just need an approval. For this demo purpose, we deactivated the rule of the 4i principle because I'm with my user on here, I can simply approve and complete. In a production scenario, you would, of course, enable some policy to prohibit that. But for demo purposes, yeah, that should be fine. We complete the merge. And now, again, the pipeline is running, and when it's finished, it will trigger a release. In the release, I can show it in a couple of seconds. There's just 2 small stages here. We automatically deploy once our pipeline has run to our development tenant, to the preview one where we edited our iFlow. And after a manual approval, we would be able to automatically deploy all the artifacts to the production instead of downloading it by hand and uploading it in the target system and enabling it there. So this is all integrated in the version control system here. And as long as that's running, maybe you can also add some details about the validation logic that runs in the pipeline.
Yeah, within the build pipeline, we actually do some custom validations. For example, for this integration flow you have seen, you can reference a local script there. And one thing we are doing is checking if this local script is part of the artifact as well. So you can maybe have a reference to a script which is not existing. And this would really, this is really not, would lead to not working iFlow on the production system. So it does not make sense to deploy that. Another custom validation is you can reference global scripts from inside these local scripts, and these are deployed separately onto the system. And during the build process, we just use the API of the SAP Cloud Integration to grab all these global scripts. And if an iFlow references such an global script, we check if it's already existing on the corresponding tenant. Yeah, we have many more. I'm also not really deep into that topic. We got these requirements from colleagues and just implemented it in JavaScript code. Yeah.
And as we now can see, I've typically made a small mistake. I'm still in the edit mode here, which doesn't let me deploy. So I quickly get out of the edit mode and deploy again, as it is live demos. So after a couple of seconds, we should now see a green deployment in that case. So let's just wait a couple of seconds. Should not take that long.
Maybe meanwhile, we can already jump to the Q&A because we are almost at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe one thing first. We published a blog post recently. It's almost this talk in a bit more technical detail. So if you want to have a look, just check it out. Yeah, and give feedback would be cool.